January 3rd, 2019. What we're referring to here is my first ever anxiety attack. I didn't have any spiritual sense at all. I was not self-reflective at all. I was completely identified with my mind. I haven't had an anxiety attack in 4 years for a very simple reason. I've just realized that I'm not my mind.
This week, I'm honored to be joined by co-host of the Journey podcast, Jake Moscato.
You know, I was very one-track minded. When I got to high school, it was all about getting girls and being popular. And then when I got to college, it was all about playing football. When I lost football and I had to drop out of college because I got injured, and then on January 3rd, the reason why I had my first panic attack a month after dropping out of college, it was because I didn't have an identity anymore. When I first got my panic attack, bro, I had 3 months of hospital visits. I didn't have any spiritual tools. I didn't read The Alchemist. I didn't know how to meditate. There's all these tools that I have now that I go to when things get rough.
Your mom, she was probably one of the only people that you can turn to explain what you're going through.
She didn't teach me. She wasn't trying to teach me. She was just always there to talk to me. And it's been the number one thing that's always helped me, bro, is just having someone there to talk to me. And I think it just meant the world, bro. It just meant the world. I'd say this, I would not be here right now if it wasn't for my mom. Truthfully, bro, I really love the person that I am today. I really, really, really love the person that I am today.
Take me back to high school real quick, and I want you to tell the audience about a specific guy. His name is Tyreek Burwell. I want you to talk about him real quick in terms of what did it mean to have someone in his position see potential in you that at the time it seemed like other people were seemingly overlooking.
You're a legend, bro. I just want you guys to know, because I'm sending people here, that you guys got to subscribe to this man's channel, because that was the best question. I mean, bro, that was the first question. That was the best question I've ever gotten, without a doubt. So listen, we'll talk about where you pulled that one from. Before we even get into it, I do want to say I am going to give myself a little bit of a disclaimer, because lately, bro, I've just been feeling this tremendous amount of pressure to perform on these things, because, you know, now that social media is kind of blowing up, there's just been so much stakes on something that it's not how this started. You know, the reason why our podcast and we've done any type of views on social media, it's because we've kept it organic, and we didn't care about who was watching. So for this episode, I really just want to give a disclaimer. I'm on day 2 of a 7-day fast. I'm not feeling my best, so I'm not here to really get viral clips. I'm just here to speak with you. So thank you for having me on your podcast, bro. Tyreek, to be honest, when I first initially met Tyreek, and you're referring to a group of guys called Camp 41, it was a crazy, for anyone that doesn't know, I spent my entire high school, you know, just caring about getting girls and being popular and typical jock, bad grades. But when it came to my junior year of high school, I went to a very prestigious Catholic high school called St. Anthony's, and everybody was wearing it came to college day, and everybody was wearing their college shirts, Yale, Princeton, Miami, and I didn't have a school. I couldn't get into any schools. I'm sure people can relate. Their guidance counselor is recommending schools that 100% of people can get into. So I'm thinking about going that route. Is it going to be like, you know, Buffalo State, or maybe I'd be lucky to get into Cortland or Utica, you know, like all these schools. And, you know, nothing against people that go to those schools. But it just wasn't the way that I wanted to live my life. I always got a kick. I remember when I was 13 years old, when Instagram first came out, I made my Instagram bio just an ordinary kid doing extraordinary things. And that's been a theme for me my entire life. It wasn't that I've always had things figured out. It wasn't that I always knew which path I was going to go down, whether it was football, if it was filmmaking, if it was podcasting, influencing. It was just whatever I do in my life, bro, I want to do it like the absolute fucking best I can. So, you know, now fast forward back to my junior year, college day. I didn't have good grades, so I couldn't get into any schools. And I was a good athlete, but I wasn't good enough to play anywhere. So I was kind of at this standstill roadblock in life. Also, I got fat. randomly. So I was like, I relied on being popular, and then it was gone. I didn't have anything to do with it. So long story short, one day I'm passing a field. Next to my high school, and I see this group of guys working out, bro, and they're all 6'7", 6'8", tattooed. They're running 4.4, 4.3 40s, and something inside me made me get out of the car because I don't know, I just felt called, just to see what it was. And I walked on the field, and I saw this guy that looked like Vin Diesel, whose name was Jason Isom. And I saw Tyreek Burwell, who was 6'7", 335 pounds. And I said, "What is this?" And they were like, "We're a workout. We work out together. The program is called Jesus Juice, Camp 41, strengthened by the Holy Spirit." And I was like, "Can I come?" They're like, "Yeah, be here tomorrow. Bring your cleats and a Bible." And I was like, "Okay." So that, long story short, and I'll get to Tyreek in a second, but there's backstory, before we even get to Tyreek. That moment for me, I think, was one of the most defining moments in my life, and I'm really happy you asked me about this. So thank you for that, because I don't speak about it enough. It was the moment for me, bro, where, like I said, I always wanted to do extraordinary things, but up until that point, up until 16, 17, I never really had to work that hard at anything. I always felt like my personality and my looks and my charm and just being Jake Moscato got me far enough in life. It got me whatever I wanted. But when I saw that, okay, if I want to play football, right, I can't even play Division III right now. And the goal for me was to play Division I. So for me to show up on that day and then, okay, Division I people work out 10 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week. Like, that's what those guys do. That flipped a switch in my head of like, okay, you can't just rely on your charm and your charisma and your talent. Like, if you want to do something great, you have to work hard. And then, what's funny? Now that's been my entire motto ever since then, because I don't feel like anything that I've gotten into since then, I'm not the most talented filmmaker. I'm not the most talented podcaster. I wasn't the most talented football player. There's all these things that I'm not really that talented at, but the switch happened where I used to rely on talent. It didn't get me anywhere, but now I rely on hard work, and the world is my fucking oyster. Like, there's nothing I can't do, because I just realized if you work your ass off, bro, you can really achieve whatever you want in a non-corny way. Now, going back to Tyreek, and the whole group of guys, I had to spend an entire summer with them before they took me serious. And Tyreek was someone that was 6'7", going into the NFL the next year, and we did one-on-ones every single day for an entire summer, and I never won one rep. And the videos are online. It's really embarrassing. I'll send you it, actually. Yeah, I was not. Yeah, you'll just see just bad version of me. And towards the end of the summer, him and the entire group accepted me with open arms, and it was just it was also really cool to see in life that I had new heroes, because growing up, I felt like the heroes that I liked them for their vanity, I liked this person because, like I said before, they were popular. I liked this person because they were good looking. I liked this person because I felt like they could bring me something, and now I was looking up to a group of guys that I didn't like them. I didn't like them for who they were. I liked them for the purpose that they had, Like, it wasn't that I didn't look up to Tyreek or any of the people that I used to work out with because of who they were as people. I looked up to them because the mission that they were, I just admire. It was the first time in my life where I saw a mission and purpose, and I was like, that's such a cooler thing to strive for and admire in life than, I guess, personality traits.
Yeah. Seeking that admiration is a dangerous drug, man. That you can get caught up in it so easy. And I love what you said. And just an ordinary guy doing extraordinary things. Because far too often people have some perception of us that they create and they won't even recognize the work that we're putting in. You know, when it's dark, nobody's looking. They have no idea. And even when it comes to light, they still have no idea what we're doing. And I used to get so angry at that stuff, but now I just kind of let it fuel me. Like when someone doesn't understand me or doesn't understand where I'm coming from, I'm just like, let them. Like, it's fine. Like, you go do your thing, I'll go do mine. Like, if you want to take the time, we can talk it out and we can try to understand each other. But I'm not going to like let you derail me from what I'm doing. And it's so nice to hear that Tyreek was that guy in your life that you could look up to and you could say, like, this is the type of guy, these are the types of principles that I want to follow in my life.
Yeah.
Because your story, you do end up going to Nassau, first of all, to go play JUCO football. And you know, people can say whatever they want about playing JUCO. Like, you didn't, I'm guarantee a lot of people in the audience did not play college football. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's that right there. And yet you still had no one at St. Anthony's that was willing to write you a letter of recommendation. And you even had some people come up to you say, I didn't even know Nassau had a football team.
Mm.
And I can just imagine myself at 17, 18 being told that and the psychological impact that that would have on me. Can you remember what that experience was like to have adult figures, especially teachers, something like that? People who are supposed to be these lead motivators in your life, people who are supposed to inspire you, shape you to be the future of America, all this rah rah stuff.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're coming up straight to you saying, hey, by not writing you a recommendation, I'm telling you without telling you that I don't have any faith in you. And being told at that age that someone in that position doesn't have faith in you, what did that do for your trajectory as an athlete, as a person?
It's a beautiful question. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I just knew at a very early age, bro, you have to beat to your own drum. And I also knew, like, now if a kid came up to me and they were like, hey, my teacher, doesn't believe in me, they don't see the vision. I'm like, well, did they do what you're trying to do? And if the answer is no, then I'm like, don't fucking listen to that person. I'm more mad about it now than I was at the time, because at the time I was so in it, and really all that did for me was it just got me fired up, bro, and it gave me something to prove, and it gave me a massive chip on my shoulder. And for what I was trying to do early on in life, and again, it's been a theme for me, which was play Division I football, as a non-athletic, fat, slow, not strong, white Italian Long Island kid, like, you don't do that. You don't play Division I football, especially if you're a fucking senior. You're a senior in high school. Like that's what I had to go do. That's why I had to go play junior college, because I didn't give a fuck about football my entire life. I started caring about it when I was a senior, and then who in their right mind is like doesn't. It's like it's basically I didn't even play the fucking sport until I was a senior, and then I was like, okay, I want to play Division I, and I've never played the sport before,
No.
I have 1 year to do it, so I think looking back on all the people that didn't believe in me, bro, because like in that certain football area, there was so much fucked up things that happened with me. I mean, I remember that this one day there was like a recruiting day, and I was so excited. I remember I went with my dad, and my dad, he loved when I played football. That was the time in our life that we connected the most, because he doesn't understand any of this influencing shit, So I love him, but we don't really. It's hard for us to relate and speak now. But when I played football, we were really close, and I remember he was just so proud of me, even though I wasn't. Like I said, I was not really a great player. It's like I barely played. But I remember going to the college day, and all the schools were there. And I remember there was a school like UConn, which is not even like, I mean, it's Division I, don't get me wrong, but
They're kind of trash.
Yeah, like they're not good, But I just remember, like, I went up to the coach, not to get I knew I was not going to get a scholarship, but just to talk to him, just talk to him. Maybe I could walk on or something like that. And I remember one of my coaches from St. Anthony's came up to me and was like, oh, the schools for you are over there, and it was like I
So
said
wrong.
before, it was like Buffalo State, Utica. And I mean, I don't even think, bro, you should. I don't even think Division 3 football should be played because I think it's too much of a dangerous game. I
Yeah.
mean, that's I wouldn't want to play Division 3 football because it's. I, I'm not trying to be a dick, but like, there's just the stakes are
No,
too
I
high.
agree with you. Yeah.
So long story short, the entire point of what I'm trying to get at is like, bro, I needed a fucking chip on my shoulder, like I needed it. So looking back, I don't exactly remember. Um, what the emotions were in the moment. Now I'm pissed off just because I understand how important words are.
Yeah.
And spelling is like spells, like words can be like spells. And I'm just really happy, bro, that for whatever reason I am the way that I am. Um,
Yeah.
I truthfully, bro, and I know I'm so far in the future right now, but I really love the person that I am today. I
That's
really,
awesome.
really, really love the person that I am today. And if you look at my life and you want to dissect it, there's been so much parts about it that have been so unfavorable, and there's been parts about it that have been great. So and that's the thing for me. Like, I don't really look back on the past. Um, too much because I'm just so okay with it. I don't regret anything, and I don't wish that looking back, I'm so happy my teachers didn't write me a letter of recommendation. And then I had to
Yeah.
play junior college football, and then I had to get fat, and then I had to have this girl break up with me. I'm so happy that all that happened. So
Yeah.
um I would just say, yeah, to answer your question, the short answer is it really gave me a chip on my shoulder, and it was the exact thing that I needed at that point in my life to get to this point.
Yeah. Being able to say you love yourself like that, that's a rare thing, but it's a beautiful thing. I don't even know if I can say that about myself, just to be completely honest. There's still a lot of parts of myself that I try to work on every day. It's parts of myself that I look at, not even like physical traits and stuff like that, but just like the way hold myself, the way I conduct my actions, where I'm just like, oh, I need to work on that. And that prevents me from being like, oh, I love myself totally.
Well,
But
I want to ask you, right? Like,
yeah,
because I'm on your podcast. What is that thing that is there one thing that makes you not love yourself, or is it a bunch of small things?
a bunch of small things that come together to one. And what I mean by that is I'm constantly in a state of thinking that I should be at a better place than I am currently. And that prevents me from being able to say, like, I love myself. I love where I am right now. So, like, I'll give you real time example, right? So I'm thinking about, okay, I want to be in a state right now where I can transition to doing this podcast full time. I'm thinking about, okay, what is it about the way I conduct myself that I'm not being able to do that? Is that a reflection on me, or is that factors I can't control? But it's that self doubt that's making me not love myself. Combine that with, oh, I'm single right now, just turned 24. I'm really starting to think, there's a lot of people in my life that are in serious relationships. Why can't I get into a serious relationship? What's preventing me from doing that? Again, is it external factors that I can't control, or is it the way I'm conducting myself? That self doubt, that one thing right there is a conglomeration of so many aspects of my life, little pieces, but that self doubt really prevents me from loving myself. And I've been working on it really heavily over the past year, especially. It's gotten a lot better than it was even a year ago. During COVID, right after graduating from school, that self doubt was massive. And we got into down. I'd say it's here. If it was here, it's like here now. But to
That's
get to that
great,
point
bro.
where I can wake up every day and just be like, yeah, I love myself. I'm going to attack every single day because I know like this is the best version of me. I really want to strive to get to that point. And it's not something that like I don't think I'm ever going to achieve. I just think I need to really sit with myself, sit with God more, sit with my loved ones more and talk it out as opposed to just keeping it bottled up. That's why I love doing these is because I get to talk to people like you who is very open with their emotions and I know that you have similar emotions, you felt the same kind of things.
Of
And just
course.
being able to talk it out and feel like, oh, I'm not crazy. Like it's not just me in my own head. Like people have these thoughts too. Hear their strategies for how they go through it. That's what's been helping me get to that point where all right, that self doubt was here, now it's here, and then one day it's just gonna be gone.
Yeah, what's funny, man. About 2 months ago, I did a 30-day social media detox, and
Mm-hmm.
during those 30 days, I was very spiritually sound. Um,
Yeah.
you know, and what I kind of realized is, the podcast that I was doing 2 months ago when I was in that spiritually sound place, they sounded a lot different than the podcasts that I've done in the past month, because I went from waking up, meditating, journaling, going for walks, no phone, no social media, to Hinge 3 hours a day, porn, eating unhealthy, going out, partying. Like, I did a complete 180. Um, and I saw that, all of my conversations in the past month on podcasts they were actually very egoic. It was like I was constantly telling stories, 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 stories. And that's great because, we learn from stories, and, I like having an ego, and it's all fun. But, the advice that I would give you is, when I look back on the podcast that I was doing 2 months ago, every single thing that I was speaking about was so simple. You
Yeah.
know, I feel like for you, I mean, I'm outside looking in, so I don't exactly know, and I just met you, but I feel like for you, you might be someone that takes problems and approaches problems with the same way that you approach a podcast. You probably prepare for them, and you do so much
Yep.
research, and maybe you overthink it a little bit. And one of the reasons why I love spirituality so much is because really the answer is just to be present.
Yeah.
And that's it. Is to just be present. But the hard part of that is, if you've done no spiritual work and you haven't sat in hours and hours of meditation, you can look at that statement and be like, "Oh, just be present. This guy's corny." But I'm someone that I've been on both sides. I've been on both sides. I've been the guy that have looked at my problems and wanted to get into all types of therapy about it and be like, "Hey, where did this thing come from? Did my mom give this to me? Was it an
Yeah.
ex-girlfriend? Was it was it generational trauma?" And I bought books about PTSD, and I'm learning about all these issues and these problems. And then I've also listened to speakers like Ram Dass, and I've read books like The Alchemist and The Power of Now that simplified problems so much to where I've gotten more out of an hour in meditation than I did in years of therapy. Your brain is like this complex problem solver, and you don't want to solve your life problems the same way that you solve math equations.
Yeah.
Because the real trick of the matter is, you and I can both be confident right now. Confidence will never come from achievements. You having the world's best podcast, me having the world's best podcast, that's not going to make us happy. You driving a sports car, and, you getting that job and that accolade. Like I said, bro, I my entire life I wanted to play Division I football. I got there, it was cool for a day, and then I was
Yeah.
depressed because I was like, okay, it's the mistake that everyone makes. We want this thing, we get it. We're not happy, so then we look for the next thing. It's materialistic. It's materialism, It's
At its
anything you
finest.
see on
Yeah.
TV, advertisements. This thing pops up. Oh, this thing is gonna make you happy. This car, these glasses, these clothes. And what I've just realized is, I think the best thing that you can do is look at a kid and look at how they're able to play in a field. And they don't even need any friends. They don't even need any toys. They can be in a grass
They
field.
don't
There could be
care.
nothing around them, and they can just be so happy. And I
Yeah.
would just say, I would just like to remind you and me and the person watching, is like, that thing is inside of you, and do whatever you have to do to find that, because that's the thing that's gonna bring you happiness, not any form of achievement.
You are 100% right. And you're absolutely correct that I approach my problems the same way that I would like a conversation, overthinking, as opposed to trying to handle them like Occam's razor style, like looking for the simplest solution. If that doesn't work, going bigger. And I agree with you. I do spend a lot of time. Meditation is not something that I personally do. I
Have you
do a
done
lot
it?
of. I have tried, but I try it in a Christianity sense, where I've
Nice.
read about what meditation's supposed to look like for someone who practices Christianity. And it's not supposed to be a practice where you empty your mind completely. It's supposed to be a practice where the only thought that you have is you're thinking about speaking with God and being in tune with what God is trying to say to you. So I have done it that way. And I have felt the benefit of doing it, but I more prefer just general prayer. Like
Love
when
it.
I have time in the car, when I have time when I'm in the shower, just any quiet place where I'm just by myself. Like that's where I feel most connected to God, just the most quiet aspects of life. No screens, no nothing, just you, like no one else, just
Love it.
me talking to the guy upstairs. Um, and that's been really powerful for me. And then, like you said, trying to find other strategies, try to find other thinkers. That The Alchemist is a book for me too. I talked about this with Zach. I read that book probably once a year, and it just
Nice.
reminds me of your life. You have to turn your life into gold. You're not going to find gold that is going to make you happy. Like the gold is your life, and that's
Yeah.
the whole journey that Santiago goes on in that book. I like getting that refresher every year just to remind myself that, like you just said, those materials that you're chasing, they might give you excitement for an instant, just a little blip in the grand scheme of things, but they will not satisfy you for the long term. They will not make you more of a man. They won't make you whole if you feel like you're missing something. Uh, to me, it's deep connection, having meaningful conversation to understand someone else, to understand the world around you. That's what makes me feel whole, is understanding in a Christian sense, understanding the world that God created, understanding the people that God created and why we're all here together, trying to understand it together and just trying to come together. Um,
I love it, bro.
yeah, man. I know you said you don't want to focus too much on the past. And
No,
if you
we can
don't,
we can go into
yeah,
the past. I just realized that I haven't dove in so long. I haven't dove in so
yeah.
long.
You made me think of it because of The Alchemist. And it's something that comes up in The Alchemist and something that you have written about. And it's the hero of your personal legend.
Let's fucking go.
And I know you haven't talked about it in a while. I know you haven't thought about it. But, you mentioned before that the words that we use, especially talking to ourselves, trying to talk to other people, they're so crucial. The words, when I talk about self doubt, like the words I used to use with myself, like, oh, you're not good enough, stuff like that, that would kill me. And I've made such a significant effort to not do that anymore. But also the words that we use with other people when we're trying to describe how we feel, that can either make or break someone's relationship with us if they're willing to try to understand what we're saying, if they're willing to try to be in tune with us. And when you wrote your essay, the word that you're focusing on, that a lot of men especially can't really talk about because it's frowned upon still, and we're getting to that point, but we're not there yet. Anxiety. And this isn't just, someone says they have anxiety, but they don't really know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
No, when you wrote your essay, this was based off of an experience. I'm going to let you take it away. It starts January 3rd, 2019. And I want you to take us back to that day as best as you can. And I want you to take your time. I want you to reflect upon how you felt emotionally and physically. And, when we're talking about how we talk to ourselves, thinking about where's our place in life, I want you to try to reflect as much as you can, to think about where you were in 2019, that place in your life. What was the kind of language you were using with yourself when you started to feel these physical feelings that you never felt before? Something that must have been shocking, surprising. Um, and just, we'll start there. So let's go January 3rd, 2019.
January 3rd, 2019, I didn't have any spiritual sense at all. I was not self-reflective at all. I was completely identified with my mind. So, you know, listen, what we're referring to here is my first ever anxiety attack. And I haven't had an anxiety attack in 4 years for a very simple reason. Um, I've just realized that I'm not my mind, and
Mm.
that my mind is bluffing. It bluffs all the time, and it's really helped me. It's really helped just to fast forward. It's been the thing for me that's helped me grow the most in life, because up until that point, whatever my mind said, I followed it. If my mind was like, judge this person, I would judge that person. If my and then on the extreme, if my mind was like, you're not okay, call an ambulance, then now that's what I would do. Now it's like, oh my god, panic attack. Or if I was on a date and there'd be awkward silence, and my mind would be like, just say something, say anything, say anything. So you say a sentence and it was stupid. It was so stupid. You shouldn't have said the fucking sentence. It's like I've just kind of, now that I'm 4 years removed from that one day, because I've done so much spiritual work since then. Really, all spiritual work for me has been, it was just an understanding of, you are not your mind. And that for me was so, it was a double-edged sword, because once you begin to get really self-aware and you look at your thoughts from, outside looking in, if you're able to sit inside of a meditation and look at your thoughts, that can get kind of scary, because you're like, oh my God, one, I can't stop thinking. I can't stop thinking. No matter what I do, I can't stop, right? Two, I don't know about you, but if we were sitting in a college lecture, and the teacher was like, "All right, I'm gonna put on the presentation a random person in here's thoughts," no one would want that, And it's that was for me something where I don't think it's something you should be ashamed of. It's just, one, human beings we're not even evolved. We're not evolved to do any of this. Everything about what I'm doing right now is artificial. The clothes that I'm wearing, the camera that's shooting me, the microphone that I'm speaking into, even the heat that's coming into this house right now. Everything is artificial. So I think people look at themselves and they judge themselves. Oh, I'm fucked up, this and that. And it's like, I don't. No, you're not. You're just living an extremely unnatural life. And that's something for me now that my entire life is getting back to. I walk barefoot. I try to be shirtless as much as possible. I try to eat as clean of a diet. No seed oils, no artificial sweeteners, no processed foods. I realize that if I'm going to date a girl, I'd much rather meet her out in person than meet the girl on a dating app. Anything meaningful in my life, I don't want to do it through the artificial means of doing it. I want to do it the way that it was done 2,000 years ago. And maybe that's aggressive and seems weird, but I've just noticed that that's what makes me feel good. Now, going all the way back, I don't know what my thoughts were that year, because I was never self-reflective. I lived a very vain existence. Looking back on those times, I was very one-track minded. The beginning of my life was characterized by being a kid and having fun and going on play dates. And then when I got to high school, it was all about getting girls and being popular. And then when I got to college, it was all about playing football. And when I lost football and I had to drop out of college because I got injured, and then on January 3rd, the reason why I had my first panic attack a month after dropping out of college, it was because I didn't have an identity anymore. It was gone. And then if you're identified with your mind and your mind no longer has an identity, my new identity became, you're just someone that's going to die. My attachment, my identity in life was football. That was gone. And then for whatever reason, maybe you believe in the devil, I'm not going to say it was that, but some type of evil force came in and was like, guess what? Your old identity was football. Your new identity is you have ALS and you're going to die in the next 3 months.
Yeah.
And that was after my panic attack, in order to make sense out of what just happened to me, because how do you make sense of feeling like you had a heart attack and the doctor telling you that you're all good? How do you make sense out of that? Well, I went to Google and, I saw a million different specialists. I have pictures of me with the probes on my head and probes on my heart. And, after 4 months of my new identity was, I have to figure out how I'm going to make this ALS syndrome, like how I'm going to be able to live at least 1 or 2 more years. That identity broke, and it was like, this problem isn't physical at all. I'm just not okay in my mind. That created the person that's sitting across from you today. I learned more in the past 4 years, 100,000x, than I ever did in the beginning stage of my life, because I was so sheltered, and up until that point, everything was all sunshine and rainbows, brother.
Hmm.
And it was just the first time in my life where, you know, things just got real. And yeah, so that was kind of, I really don't remember um, what I was saying to myself at the time, because
Yeah.
I don't really think that I had much investment in it. I think it happened to me.
Well, one fascinating thing that I'm so intrigued that you mentioned identity, because one of the quotes that you wrote down that I wrote down because I thought it was so powerful was you were talking about playing college football and being in that team environment, and you had a line that said college coaches steal your identity. So it's so fascinating to think about. You're on a team
Yeah,
where it's supposed to be yeah, all for one, one for all type of thing. But they're stealing your individuality to say that you're a part of a conglomerate, you're a part of this team, like your identity is this team. Then you get pulled out of that. Now your identity with the team is gone. Your identity that you had with yourself as a football player, gone. So two stages of identity taken away from you in one fell swoop. And now you're back to trying to figure out, who am
yeah,
I? That's such a common thing. I've talked about it so many times with athletes. When you transition out of that world, it's shell shocking. And now when I hear you talk about, practice, I encourage you. I'm going to try to link some articles down below for like the research on grounding, which is basically, don't wear any shoes, just feel connected with the earth.
yeah,
Staggering. The research on eliminating artificial sweeteners from your diet, staggering. The research on like carnivore diets, just sticking to what our ancestors did
yeah,
and actually identifying as a human as opposed to being whatever humanoid version of ourselves we are now that eats processed food on a screen 9 hours a day. That version of a human doesn't have as much of an identity as what you talked about. And getting to that point, going throughout that journey, that takes so much discipline, that takes so much self-reflection, and I'm sure the meditation played a big role, and I'm sure the constant iteration of trying to see what works, what doesn't work. That's a lot that a lot of people would not be willing to do. But if you want to get to that point to find your identity for yourself, I think you need to do it. You need to put in that effort. Just like if you're going to build a business, if you want to figure out who you are, you need to put in the work to figure out who you are. And I think the other part on top of it, which I want you to go into more, is I don't think it's possible alone. Where I think a lot of us try to go through these experiences alone, try to find out who we are. But I think it's important to have conversations with other people. And another thing that you wrote down in that essay was one of the best strategies that you had to getting through that healing journey. And I don't think healing's a destination. I think it's a journey, which I think is really fitting because, the Journey podcast and everything like
yep,
that. But to get through that healing journey, you have to have meaningful conversations. And of course, I want to talk about Zach, but I want to start with your mom,
mm,
because your mom was someone in your life who also dealt with anxiety. And she was probably one of the only people that you can turn to explain what you're going through. But I know a lot of people that wouldn't be willing to go to someone to explain, like, hey, I'm having real anxiety. Like, not this label that a lot of people put on anxiety. They don't really understand it. No, I'm having real anxiety. And that's a hard thing, especially as a man. I know a lot of people like to say, oh, men can be more emotional now. Like as men, it's hard to break down that statuesque. And I mean, objectively, like you are a statuesque guy, like you're 6 foot plus, like
yeah.
jacked guy. Like it's hard for someone like you to be able to say, like, hey, I'm not doing well. So just talk about those initial conversations with your mom. Like, what was it like opening up to her in that way, uh, and going through the process of getting responses and feedback as to how you can develop strategies to go through what you're doing.
Well, one thing I've just learned, and what's funny, I have a funny story about I've just learned, bro. It's much better to be honest,
Yeah,
because
I agree.
if you're not honest and you're not open about something, and you take those thoughts and those emotions and you harbor them in, they'll kill you.
Yeah.
They'll kill you. I was on a date the other night, before I get into my mom, but just a funny story. I was on a date the other night, and it was the first time. Normally, bro, I'm lights out on dates. I just show up, bro. I'm so much fun, this and that. And on this date, for whatever reason, the pressure just got to me. It was the first time in my life, on a date. I wasn't able to form sentences correctly, and this girl was beautiful, and she was asking all the right questions, and I did not feel myself. So the strategy after the date was like, okay, do you never talk to this person again, right? Which
Yeah.
which that wouldn't be fair. That wouldn't be fair to her or me, because I don't think the problem was her. I thought the problem was me. So
Yeah.
I did the only thing I could do, and I was just like, hey, after I drop, in the morning after I dropped her off, and I was like, hey, I really like you. I was really nervous last night. I don't think it was a good representation of me. I'd love to see you again. And when I originally started talking to her, I was trying to build our relationship on impressing her. And now I'm just trying to be as honest as possible, because I don't want to feel those feelings again when I show up and I don't feel comfortable and I can't be myself. So, transferring it over to my mom, what's a crazy story, bro, about my mom? My mom also never really had anxiety either. But then one day when I was 12 years old, she was at the bank, and for whatever reason, some guy came up to her and was talking to her about the Illuminati. And I don't think that's that scary of a topic, but my mom at the time was going through things, and she was ripe. This was like her awakening moment, and awakening through trial by fire and suffering, because for whatever reason, the Illuminati and the devil and the country is run by all these. It freaked her out bad. And I didn't see her for 6 months. Where's mom? Where's mom? And I didn't know at the time. I was just a kid. Maybe I was a little younger, like 10 or 11 or 9. And I remember when she came back, I didn't see her because she went to go live with my aunt, who had to help her, and she had to find Jesus Christ, actually. And that was the thing that got her through it. But she didn't teach me. She wasn't trying to teach me. She was just always there to talk to me. And like you said, that was the exact thing that it's been the number one thing that's always helped me, bro. Is just having someone there to talk to me. And I think with my mom, like, being so open and having so much love, it just meant the world, bro. It just meant the world, I'd say this: I would not be here right now if it wasn't for my mom. When I first got my panic attack, bro, and I had 3 months of hospital visits every other day, I didn't have any spiritual tools. I didn't read The Alchemist. I didn't know how to meditate. I didn't. There's all these tools that I have now that I go to when things get rough, because I don't believe now I'm in a state where I'm a little bit more seasoned spiritually, where I know if something happens right now, actually the best thing I can do is not speak to someone, is to immediately go work on it myself. I've learned that I've learned the deepness of issues, and that there's not like a sentence doesn't help me anymore from someone. It doesn't help me, but I've just learned that the best thing that I can do is notice what's going on inside of me that's making me react a certain way. And then I find the patterns inside of me. So I used to be someone, and at the time I needed it. That was my tool. I needed to speak to someone. But if you notice, a lot of times when people use other people as therapists to a fault, if you've ever noticed a friend or a lover or a family member that consistently, they only come to you with problems and complaining. And if you notice, a trend with these people is that they're usually coming to you with the same problems, and I encourage you to be there for them, and I encourage you, if you're having problems, to go speak to people. But there's more to solving. There's just more to solving problems. There's way more to solving problems than just speaking to people. A lot of it has to do with healing yourself, and that was a switch that I had to make, because I also just got to see that life is a single player game, and it's just I also don't want to be I don't know. I'm ranting.
No, I want to focus on a sentence when we talk about spirituality. It's a sentence that you've mentioned before. It's a prayer, and you said, "Lord, make me an instrument of your light so I can be there for myself and all the people that need it far more than me." That's a powerful prayer to me, because you're focusing on getting in tune spiritually not just for yourself, because I think spirituality encompasses the whole universe, everyone within it. And if you think of it in a Christian sense, if you think of it in a non-denominational sense, I think it's very similar, where we're all together on this earth. We're all brothers and sisters. If you can't be the best version of yourself, you can't be there to help other people. You can't be that light for other people in this world.
Exactly.
And hearing you say that, it I know when you pray it, you mean it, because I can see it every time I watch you and Zach talk. I see it when I hear you speak. I hear it. I don't even have to. I don't even have to see you. I don't have to see a clip. I don't have to see you on YouTube or anything. I can just hear your voice, and I can hear the tone in your voice, and I know that you mean what you say. And it's that authenticity that I think we talked about it even before we hopped on. It's that authenticity, which is the reason that you and Zach are in the place right now that you are, is because you don't hide anything. You just talked all about honesty. You guys are brutally honest when you have conversations with each other. When I was talking to Zach, he said that he was so honest that his dad told you that he learned more about Zach from listening to your podcast than he did just speaking to Zach in normal life.
Isn't that nuts?
Like, that's brutal honesty. That's crazy to me. And it's evident to see the response that you get from people in your comments, people reaching out to you, that there are people who have these questions, but they're not in tune with themselves. They're afraid to ask these questions, and they need someone to fill that role for them, someone who can answer those questions without them actually having to say anything. And you two are filling that role, especially for people around our age. There's not a lot of people focused specifically on us, like as a peer group, someone who's around our age that's going through it at the same time. That's rare. And the two of you are really hammering on it. And I think you guys are just at the beginning of your potential for reaching people in a very significant way. You know, you're helping all these people answer these questions that they have for themselves. But as you enter into this next phase of life where, you know, you're in tune spiritually, you now have a sense of direction, what you want to do professionally with the podcast, things are starting to fall more into place. The path is starting to get clear. What's a question for yourself, though, that you still need to have answered for this next chapter?
Dude, you're so fucking good, bro.
Thank you.
Nah, you're good, man. You're gonna be, dude. You're gonna be, bro. If you don't make it, bro, like, I'm gonna like, I'd put everything I have on you. I'd put
Thank you.
I would, bro. No, I would, bro. Because I've been through so much and I've gotten through like very hard things every single time. I've just kind of learned that, like, my favorite thing that I've been saying to everyone lately, I can't stop saying it, is that my problem, bro, again, there's a spiritual teacher named Ram Dass, and I feel very connected to him, the way he speaks. And he had this problem, and it's very similar. And, you know, my problem is sometimes when I get into the spiritual stuff, I forget that I'm a human being. A beautiful statement is, hey, why don't you try being human sometimes? Like, you're in school, take the curriculum, like like I said before, I do believe you can get a lot out of meditation, but meditation it's a method. It's like an exercise, really, if you want to grow and evolve spiritually, that stuff comes in breakups. It comes from going out. It comes from getting stomach poisoning because you drank too much. It comes from just not being nervous. It comes from, like, living your life. Like, be invested in the ego. I spent so much time trying to get away from the ego, and I realized that that's not a harmonious way to live. I have an ego. I'm always going to have an ego. Jake Moscato is always going to be a thing. I tried being so spiritual of, like, I don't want to be good looking anymore. I don't want to be charismatic anymore. It's like, why? That's me. That's who the fuck I am. And I've just seen that, if I'm I'm just so gung-ho that I can be so spiritual that I forget to be a human being, and I can be such a human being that I forget to be God. and they're both bad, you know? So now for me, I'm trying to merge the two. I guess that would be my question, is how can I merge my egoic personality, everybody look at me, and how can I merge my God self that isn't interested in me in the slightest bit, and is just interested in how may I serve the world? How can I make the world a better place?
Damn.
It's cool, right? When you catch a flow.
I'm going to ask you the show staple question for your last question.
Let's do it.
I asked Zach, and we actually went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, so I'm interested to see what you have to say here. In your present state, based off of all the experiences that you've had, what have you learned about love?
I've learned that you never actually fall in love with anyone. And if my wife hears this, you know, I'll still say I'll still say I love you to her. You know, I'll still say I love you, but you're never in love with anyone. There's not you can experience love with someone. Okay, I've been a judgmental fuck, bro. I've been a judgmental asshole. And funny story, there were a lot of qualities in people that I would judge and develop disdain for. And then I started doing those things. And that was a very scary place to be in, because now I'm the person that I hate. And I looked at that and I'm like, bro, why do I hate anyone? Like, why do I, like, I'm learning about love, right? I'm learning about it, and I'm like, what does love even mean? Like, what is love? Like, what does love mean? What is that? You know? And how, for me, the reason why when people think about love, they think about relationships, is it's because for most people, the only time people are ever in love is in a relationship, and that's why they think they fall in love with someone else. But what I've seen personally from doing a lot of deep inner work is I've looked at that feeling of love, of being with someone else, and really, really love to me is just its ultimate presence and acceptance of what is. That's all love is. You know, the moment I was able to look at a tree and a flower and feel the same love feeling, fire that I would feel with my woman, I was like, oh, that's why kids are so happy, because I feel like kids aren't poisoned by society. They're just love. They love everything. If it's black, if it's white, if it's a guy, if it's a girl, if it's an action figure, if it's a lot of kids don't even really have preferences. They just love to be alive. There's no romance as a 4-year-old. They're not in love with anyone. They're in love with flowers and trees and playgrounds and swing sets and animals. And that's what I've learned about life, is that love is not something, you don't get love because you fall in love with someone. You fall in love with life. And that's love. You know, that's a healthy love. That's the only love that I'm interested in. I just saw that there was all these things in my life. Like, if I can truly fall in love with water, right? How can I, and not even water, if I can take the same love that I have for my woman and bring it to something as small and as simple as water, then I'm going to have an amazing life. And what I've learned is that that's what life is about. It's trying to be able to fall in love with everything. Is what I'd say.